Why did he choose someone else? In this video, we'll talk about his choice. Why did he choose her instead of you? Why did he choose someone else? And often, girls and women in such situations begin to think that the problem is in appearance. The problem is that it could be more beautiful there, and so on. But in most cases, completely different factors come into play that women often overlook. And the first important point, which for a man is a weighty argument in choosing a life partner, is emotional closeness. If there was not the most emotional closeness in your relationship, that is, he did something for you, he helped you at some points, was included in your life, but he did not feel support from you, for example. Perhaps I didn't feel attention, sincerity, and I felt all this. When communicating, for example, with another woman, I felt understood and supported, and finally felt like I had never felt like I did before. He felt better earlier. It's like he felt a weight lifted off him when a man realizes that in certain situations he can lean on a woman. That is, to also be supported, heard, that he is not alone, that in difficult situations, for example, he will not be abandoned. And these moments are important, but men naturally do not voice these moments. So if there wasn't that support in your relationship, if there wasn't emotional closeness, it means he felt uncomfortable emotionally in your relationship. When he meets someone who provides that emotional comfort, a man might choose another woman, and even if your way, more beautiful, smarter, more impressive, and so on. But a man often chooses a woman for the way he feels when he is around her. If a woman gives a man the very feeling that he would like to experience, then, naturally, the choice will always be in favor of that woman. And this was one of the criteria. The next important point is that he is not ready for a serious relationship with you. Sometimes men just wait it out with women, and often that kind of man won't be making future plans with a woman. In other words, he won't be discussing any future plans, like talking about weddings, kids, housing, and so on. So there won't be any joint plans, and the woman is at a 9. So every man has an image of the woman he wants. In his head, the woman who should be by his side, and he unconsciously looks for that specific woman. When he meets the one, he feels it. He understands that this is exactly the kind of person who should be by his side. And often, men who have been dating women for a while, living together, when they meet the one, they quickly propose. Some guys get married quickly and start families fast because they recognize their match. This could be one of the reasons. Another point could be that, for example, he sees some of your requests. He sees some of the points that you talk about, and he understands that it will be difficult with you, building a serious relationship with you. For him, it might be a tough situation. That is, perhaps he understands that he won't be able to handle some of your requests. He's not ready for some of the moments that you voice. He realizes that being in a relationship with you is just too complicated. And again, he might make a choice. That's not in your favor. Well, for now, I'm moving on to the next point. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next helpful video on the topic of relationships between men and women. Next, what could be another reason why he chose someone else? And that's what he was looking for, something new. So, sometimes men act a bit childish. He could get tired of the monotony. He could get bored with everything. And he realizes that he wants something fresh in his life, some excitement, new relationships, a new woman by his side. And guys like that often switch things up. A woman is like a pair of gloves. When one gets boring, when everything feels mundane, she gets swapped out for a new one. And here, the question isn't really about you, but more about the guy. Next, another important point about why a man might have chosen someone else is that he didn't truly value you. And here the question is directed at the woman herself. Often a man reflects a woman's attitude towards herself. If he didn't value you, then most likely you didn't value yourself. You did way too much for the guy, forgot about yourself, forgot about your own desires and preferences, and lost sight of what interests you personally. Maybe you completely shifted your focus onto all of his wants and preferences. And at some point he became just a consumer. He consumed everything you gave him, and he could meet a woman who is more focused on herself. Who? She tries less for him and for the relationship, and which will be more valuable to him because he will invest more in this relationship. He'll have to do something for the relationship, and naturally he'll appreciate both that relationship and that woman. By the way, drop a comment and share if you've had similar stories where a guy chose someone else, and what do you think the reason was? I'd love to read your thoughts. Next, another important point. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Next, another important point. It's about intimate life. And if intimate life does not satisfy the man's needs, the man can refuse such a relationship. And in fact, physical connection is very important for a relationship, very important for a man. And often problems arise for one simple reason, because people do not know how to talk openly about their needs. They avoid frank conversations because it is awkward to talk, because they want their partner to guess about some desires and preferences. And often, conversations can solve a ton of problems, but if you don't talk, then those problems just stick around. So, for example, if a man isn't satisfied with the physical intimacy with a woman, he'll look for someone else because, for men, this is a really important aspect of a relationship. Next, he didn't feel loved in the relationship. It's important for men to feel loved just like it is. For women, if a man understands that he did a lot, for the woman, he invested a lot. In the relationship, he tried. At some moments, he showed a lot of love and care, but received practically nothing in return. And that's where the imbalance happened. At some point, he felt like he was losing in that relationship. So he gives a lot and gets nothing in return. And here's the interaction where a man feels used. So, if a man didn't feel loved, then maybe you realize that you were in the role of a consumer, demanding more love, attention, care, affection, and so on, but not giving anything in return. This is precisely what can be the reason why a man chose another woman, having met another woman from whom the man receives some kind of return. So he understands that he's both giving and receiving something in return. He feels loved, he feels cared for, he feels attention, perhaps understanding, respect, what he needed and was missing. It will then be up to you to make the choice naturally in favor of another woman. And the last important point, why a man could choose another, he did not see the prospects of your relationship. That is, when you build a relationship, you naturally talk, you communicate on some topics, you share your thoughts, dreams, experiences. And a man understands, for example, when communicating with you, that your views on life are too different. He understands that he wants, for example, a big family, and you say that you don't want children, or at most one. He says that a woman, for example, should not work in his understanding and in his idea of a family that a man provides, and a woman looks after the family and children. And you say that, for example, a woman should build a career, be a professional in her field, a nanny can look after the children, and so on. And these differences in views, the man analyzes and understands that with you, for example, it will be too difficult to build a relationship in the future. In other words, his worldview doesn't align with yours. And he understands that either nothing will work out the way he imagines, or your relationship. It will just fall apart later on. And a man might decide, while it's still not too late, like before he gets too tied up with you, to choose another woman who has a perspective on life that resonates more with his. Again, he has some aspirations, he has some undertakings, but you don't look at his views. So you're completely on a different wavelength. You see life in a totally different way. And here, the man might realize that your relationship has no future. And even if he really likes you, and even if your looks amaze him, even if, for example, you cook deliciously and anything else but analyzing and understanding what awaits you in the future, the man understands that your paths will diverge. And for him, this will be a tough situation. And that's exactly why a man might choose another woman. That's all I have for this video. This was me, Elisa Vardomskaya. I hope for your likes and subscriptions. Leave a comment about what you'd like to discuss in my new videos. Don't forget to hit the bell. Bye all.